Right, hello and welcome to another Expert Insight interview. My name is John Golden from Sales Pop, online sales magazine, and Pipeliner CRM, joining you from a sunny, slightly rainy actually, San Diego today. And I'm delighted to welcome back Andy Gurczak, who is in Indiana. Hopefully not too rainy, or is it sunny?
No, we got so much sunshine. It's actually glaring my
Oh,
eyes.
yeah,
We're actually, heading towards spring, so we're getting that nice weather coming in. So now we're enjoying. It's
that's
still
good.
30. Don't get me wrong. It's still 30
Yeah.
degrees today. So
I know. My wife, because she's originally from California, she thinks anything below like 72 is like Arctic conditions. So when it's gets here to like the low 60s, she thinks she's literally in the Arctic. Andy, just to remind you, is the founder and CEO of All City Adjusting, a licensed public adjusting firm. You came to the US with your family from Poland when you were 9 years old, and you've been working in the construction industry, more specifically fire restoration, and you found your true calling, which is public adjusting. So we're going to talk about how to protect yourself before a claim happens. So before, let's just start out the very basic here, Andy. Like, what is the one or two big mistakes that people make, like business owners or homeowners make before a fire related like insurance claim?
yeah. So one of the things is when they're calling it in, using the wrong terms. Right? We see that a
Hmm.
lot. People saying the wrong term, using the wrong terms, like saying, we had a flood, we had a sewer backup, stuff that unless you have an endorsement is not covered,
Hmm.
or not, flood's not covered at all unless you're in a flood zone and you have
Right.
you have a flood policy. So using the wrong terms, and then saying too much. I think a lot of homeowners get happy feet and just want to say, like, as if they're talking to their best friend, not
Right.
knowing that adjuster, he's working for the insurance company. So
Hmm.
whatever you say, because we come into claims all the time months later, and we're trying to play detective. We're working the claim, we think it's going good. All of a sudden an adjuster hits us with, hey, well, this homeowner sent us all this paperwork and then they said all this stuff. It's like, wow, well, we didn't know that. So that's kind of two common things that the insureds do that really put them in bad situations.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting because I mean that's the thing is, especially businesses, but home as well is like people, as you say, people often think, well, they think I have my home insurance and that covers everything, but they don't realize that some things, like here, for instance, I mean, our home insurance doesn't cover earthquake. I have earthquake insurance. It's an additional insurance that I have to get. You saw the LA fires. Other people have to get additional fire insurance if they're in those kind of areas. And I think sometimes people don't realize that they think, oh well, I've got the insurance to cover my home, so if anything happens, I'm good.
People take that for granted. They definitely think that as an agent sells you a policy, you're insured for
Mm.
everything. Because we get
Yeah.
calls, with hey, I had this kind of claim, this kind of claim. You know, in California, we've gotten, I don't know how many calls now where we've looked over policies and there's no coverage for fire. That
Mhm.
coverage was taken away months ago.
Yeah.
Um, it stinks. It really stinks. People not, and agents. I think, again, I don't have much to say about agents, or in terms of, I don't want to
Sure.
speak for them. I don't know, when agents not, I don't know if they're advising clients or not, and clients just not taking that extra premium to pay. Like, you have extra earthquake coverage, right?
Yeah.
That's an extra premium that you're
Yeah.
paying.
Hmm.
But if you didn't have it, but at least now that you're
Yeah.
covered for earthquake, right?
Yeah.
A
No,
lot of people
absolutely.
that come to us, it's like, hey, we didn't know, we weren't covered for this. How did you not know if this is something that happens all the time? So
Yeah, no, and it is, and I guess it is hard for people because yeah, they assume that they make a lot of assumptions, or I mean, I'm not particularly in an earthquake zone, so it's kind of a choice. But it's better to make an informed choice. At least, like if I decided not to have it and then an earthquake happened, I'd know that
correct.
I would be, well, pretty much out of luck.
But that's like
Um,
our properties. We have fire coverage on all our properties. It's not like we're fire prone and
yeah,
fires happen very rare in this area. But you have that, right?
yeah,
You have it because there is that chance that it could happen. If it happens, for a small premium, you're covered for a lot of money.
yeah.
And again, you're protecting your biggest investment. Whether you're investor, it's your homeowner. A property is worth a lot, so it's a big investment that you're protecting.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing too is, I mean, a lot of people don't. You mentioned the language because I think that's really important as well. And I guess oftentimes people don't. understand, or you said use the wrong terms or misunderstand what the policy does. I mean, for instance, like, say you have a business or whatever, or a home, and it suffers damage. Maybe say it's burnt down, God forbid, or whatever. It's like, are you getting replacement cost, or are you getting actual cash value? What's the difference? Is it a per square foot that you're getting? I mean, understanding, like, because I mean, and the only reason I'm sounding knowledgeable on this, because after the LA fires, I did call my insurance agent and say, just want to check what my fire coverage is here. And he gave me all the breakdown of it. But I think oftentimes we don't understand that well.
Correct. And you said it perfectly. Like, for example, easy terms, right? For us, right? Or you obviously are aware now because you called actual cash value recoverable. They can mean hundreds and thousands of dollars on the payout,
Yeah.
right? Especially on an older home. So knowing that, and again, most homeowners won't know that, right? Unless someone educates them, how would they know if they've never purchased? Maybe it's their first policy. No one ever reads the policy; they just assume, right? Some of the things we offer to our investors and some of our clients, even new clients that come on board, is looking over policies. We spend a lot of time looking over policies that people have and making sure there's no, or at least advising them, hey, you don't have coverage for this. You're not covered for this. Your limit's only this. You should have more, and just letting them know what they have and what they don't have. So then at least they can make a call to their agent and discuss those options.
Yeah, and then and exactly, I think then you can make informed decisions, because obviously the more coverages you have, and the better coverage you have, the more expensive it's going to be. But that's a choice that you make, but making an informed choice, because sometimes it's just, it's obviously attractive to go for, well, cheaper option, and maybe I don't need this, and maybe I don't need that. But to be informed and to know what the consequences are, and making that choice, as I said, an informed choice, is really important.
Correct. We looked over a policy a few days ago. Was for a new investor purchased a property. I think it was Carolinas, and it was a duplex. They owned one side, and there was a master policy covering the outside. Their policy covered the inside, and I read the bylaws. It was drywall in was theirs, and their coverage for their home, or for their inside of their home, was only 25,000. Well, that's the price of a kitchen these days.
Yeah.
Because they assumed that the master policy would cover everything.
Right. Yeah.
Not understanding that doesn't cover anything. That just covers, again, anything behind the drywall or drywall. I forgot the bylaws, what they stated, but just knowing that.
So how better prepared can homeowners or business owners be around insurance? Because I think, as we've seen, again, like I said, the LA fires recently, I think that illustrated a lot of things where people now are trying to make claims, but they don't really have, they never did the preparations. They don't really have a lot of evidence for some of the things they want to claim for.
Correct. So, when it comes to prepping, or like getting ready, like for homeowners, right? Inventorying their house, taking a picture of the entire house, or going through and maybe doing a quick recording once every few years, even, now, right? And you'll have it for the next 10 years. Because if something does happen, you can go through a video and it's total loss. You can pick out what was in that home. One of our things we offer services is inventorying of personal property, right? We'll dig through burnt houses and pick out stuff and itemize every item. But when you have a total loss, like in California, for example, where the house burns down to the foundation and there's nothing left, well, what can we dig through? There's nothing left. So now we have to go through we have a generic list. If you have a 5-bedroom, 4-bath home, we have a generic list of what's kind of in each standard in each room. But then everything else, you really have to sit down with the insured, get photos, and you have to build a list through, kind of playing detective again.
Yeah, because I mean that's probably one of the I mean, when you come across that's probably one of the toughest things for people, is it when they have things that are of value and they can't prove that they ever had them because they never inventoried them.
Especially when you get into high-end items, right? You
Yeah.
go through you go through a closet and there's like, very expensive shirts. Well, unless you have them there, you start, putting high ticket items on a list, they're gonna want receipts. Insurance companies are gonna want proof, right? And the burden
Yeah.
of proof is always on the insured. We
Mhm.
can make the list, but the proof of burden's on the insured. And one of the things, when you have a fire or any kind of loss for that matter, when they say, the insurance company says, or their vendor says, well, we're gonna toss everything, or we're gonna take everything from this home, don't, the best is not to touch everything. When we come in, we want to save everything, leave it, let us inventory, photograph everything. Then if it's a total loss, if it can be cleaned, whatever, you can take it. But until someone actually takes inventory of it, you don't want to take that stuff anywhere in a toss it in the garbage, have anyone touch it or take it.
Yeah. So when is an ideal time to get a public adjuster involved? Is it before you make a claim, during the claim, or when is it?
Yeah, as soon as possible, John. As soon as possible is the best. Honestly, is the best answer. And not saying just our company. Any good public
Sure.
adjuster, you want to get them as soon as possible. You want to have that team. You want them to file the claim. You want them to discuss the claim with the insurance company. We want to be ahead of the insurance company. We want to present the claim to them, not come in 2 months after it's been denied, delayed.
Mhm.
There's no communication. You want to come in. That's your best bang for the buck. That's really when your claim will outshine and you will get the best result.
Yeah. And just to remind people again what a public adjuster is.
A public adjuster advocates in the state they're licensed in for the insured on behalf of the insured against their insurance company.
Mhm.
So whether it's property, personal property content, structure, business income, uh, loss of rents, all those coverages a public adjuster can negotiate and handle on the behalf of the insured to make sure the insured maximizes his claims, all the policy, all the coverages they have.
Yeah, because let's face it, the insurance company is going to send their own adjuster in, and they're working on behalf of the insurance company. So they're not there to maximize, your claim for you. They're in, well, I'm not saying they're there to minimize, but they're to make sure that you're getting exactly what is covered on paper and whatever they decide that is or interpret that as.
John, that's great that you pointed that out. You have to kind of peel off the layers of how insurance company works
Mhm.
and their process, right? If you know how their process works with claims and get again offering a lower payment, most 90% of something people take that initial
Mhm.
offer, how much money they're saving, right?
Yeah.
And how much money they should have been paid out, and that's a huge profit gain for them, which is fine. They're a business, and again, they're
Sure.
just proof of burdens on you, John. You're
Yeah.
supposed to prove to them what you owe, not them. So
Mhm.
hence they don't have the responsibility. They can just write any kind of estimate, present you any kind of numbers, and then you have to also remember how adjusters get paid on insurance company. Unless they're staff adjusters, most now are CAT, meaning they're deployed or they're out of state,
Yeah.
and they work as independent adjusters. I worked as an independent, and I know that whether I wrote you $1,000 estimate or 10 or 15, I got paid pretty much the same, maybe a little bit more here and there, but I could have been done in an hour instead of 5 writing an
Mhm.
estimate, and I would still get paid. So the quicker you couldn't turn around, the quicker you would get paid, and
Right,
you're
right.
out of there. So, and again, that's you have to look at it from the adjuster standpoint, the insurance company standpoint. Everyone's in business. Everyone's trying to get done as quickly as possible. They're trying to send out vendors. So
Mhm.
who's there kind of looking out for you, right? They have
Yeah.
everyone's working for the insurance company, and then you're kind of left on your own.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's a really important point for people because, they often feel like, well, I pay money to the insurance company, therefore I'm a customer of the insurance company, therefore the insurance company is gonna be looking out for me. And, I mean, they are to a degree, but not to the degree that somebody like you would be advocating on their behalf, and I think that's probably the mistake most people make. They think, "I'm a customer of the insurance company's gonna do their best by me."
Yeah, and it just works the same way, just like with taxes, right?
Mhm.
You can file taxes yourself.
Yeah.
You can really get yourself into trouble if you do it bad, right? You can hire someone that does them, some local, whatever,
Yep.
anyone, um, or you can hire a real tax professional and really see the benefit of it, right? Because there's more than just filing taxes. A tax account does. Because I've had a business tax account for since we've incorporated, and it's been the greatest, one that knows everything.
Yeah. Yeah,
That
no,
saved us a ton of money. So that's the difference.
yeah, no, I agree with you. I've been using for my personal. I've been using the same accountant now, since I've been in the States, nearly 25 years or 27 years now. And sure, I could probably do them myself, but I have that extra level of comfort knowing that it's been done by a top professional. And every so often, then there are things that he comes up with that I would never have known about.
Correct, and just like just like going to if you're in a car accident or any kind of legal
Mhm.
thing, you're gonna hire an attorney, right? You're gonna
Yeah.
hire him before you go to court, not after you're found guilty or
Right.
same thing with a PA. You're hiring someone to represent you, to work the entire claim process so it can maximize and benefit you.
Mhm. What are some red flags or things that people should look out for with their policies or their coverage, or to make sure that they're in the best possible position before something happens?
Yeah, understanding your policy and really, understanding your policy from A to Z, and sitting down with your agent, and knowing, because right now there's a lot of exclusions, right? That we don't pay
Mm,
for matching, we don't pay for this. If this happens, we don't pay for. A lot of people don't read their policies, and that's when their claims are denied. That's when they have the biggest issues, and they weren't aware of. So I think understanding your policy and understanding the coverage you have for your home is kind of the
mhm.
number one thing, that every insured, whether it's a homeowner or investor, should know.
Yeah, and the onus is on, and don't forget, you are paying money to the insurance company, so the onus is on them to explain. You shouldn't be embarrassed about asking all these questions, even if you're asking the same
Oh no,
questions, you're going down into the weeds. No, it's like anything else. They should be they need to explain it to you.
we interpret policies all the time, and if you think they're written for just the average, just the average person, they're not.
Mhm.
We have a hard time reading them and interpreting them, and they can go.
Yeah.
They're so ambiguous; they can go both ways for the homeowner or the insured. So, you're very hard to understand. Get with your agent. They should know their policies. Hopefully, most of them do.
Yeah. Just explain that you just mentioned a few, just explain a few things that people may not realize, like you said, matching a moment ago. Just a
Mhm.
couple of examples for people.
Correct. So that's very on exterior claims. We see the matching exclusion, meaning if you, let's say, you have damage to your aluminum or some shingles, and
Hmm.
now these shingles aren't, they don't manufacture them, they
Yep.
don't have the color. They won't, the big exclusion says we're not going to pay for that. That we're not
Hmm.
going to pay to match. There's also one that says we don't pay for metal, soft metal damage. So if hail happens and all your metals are bent, they call that a mirroring, scratching. They don't pay for that, right? That's
Hmm.
an exclusion. You have exclusion for sewer backup. Understanding sewer backup, and if you have a finished basement that's 100,000, you have no coverage, and you do have backup from the sewers, that's not covered.
Right.
Understanding these little coverages, there's a one called service line endorsement, right? It's usually small, excuse me, usually like a $10,000 to $15,000 service line. And what it covers is the line that goes in from the street to your home. Many
Mm.
people have it, and it doesn't cost much, but we've had insured that had that, purchased a building as an investor. 3 weeks later, the line collapsed, and they had to have the plumber redig the sewer line and everything. That service endorsement that cost them like $15 during the initial sign up, binding process, when you got the policy, covered that. I think it was like over 10,000 claim. That the plumber's bill.
Yeah, and those are great examples, because that last one you had, because just think of it, things like that can suddenly be hugely expensive. Like for instance, say if it was an older building and that line going in,
That's
suddenly
Yep.
suddenly all those like pipes need upgrading, right? You didn't know about that.
And you
Suddenly
and
maybe
you
that.
have John, that's a
Right.
good point, especially with the older building. You have to know if you're buying an older building, the sewer pipe, it's usually used to be made out of those clay tiles that were like
Yep.
3 feet each, and those
Mhm.
collapse all the time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And they collapse, tree roots get in it.
yeah.
So it happens all the time. So knowing that, also knowing law and ordinance coverage, which is an extra endorsement that pays for when you do have a loss and now you have to upgrade. Let's say all the electrical has to be
Yeah.
upgraded to the new codes, insulation. Well, that endorsement covers that, right? Well, a lot
Mhm.
of policies now are not including that. Like, for example, State Farm now, for landlord policies, it's not automatically included. So if
Mhm.
you're an investor or landlord and you have State Farm, you should definitely go check, because that law and ordinance, which is a huge part of your coverage, is not included automatically, which it used to be. And I know a
Mhm.
lot of agents have missed that.
Yeah, and that can be a massive amount of money if you've got old stuff that needs to be brought up to
Yep.
code or new. It could even mean that they have to reroute things, and now they have to. I mean, and the last thing you want is so all this additional work to suddenly land on your shoulders.
You have to think, you purchase a home that's even 56 years old,
Hmm.
electrical now has to be upgraded. The walls should be furred out, or now you have to spray foam because you have to meet the R value. There's
Yeah,
just so many little things now that have to be upgraded, that weren't before.
yeah. So, what's the last piece of advice you would give to people to prepare themselves, and just finish also with just summing up again what a public adjuster does and why that should be your first stop.
Yeah, a public adjuster is the best. is the best player to have on your team, especially when when you're building a real. If we're speaking in real estate for real estate investors and landlords, like that's one of the best people to have on your team because you might never use them, right? It's free of service for us, for example, to review policies to just give you that second, hey, peace of mind. You have coverage here. You don't have get this policy, and then when something does happen, just making sure the claim is paid quickly and fairly and you get all that money and now you can use your own contractors and you're there's in such our clients are in such better situation after. We literally had a large claim today where I asked the insured, hey, did you talk to the board? How do you guys feel about the end result? They said they're still dumbfounded that they still can't believe that claim went like from 40,000 to 1.1 million. Was a big roofing claim in Wisconsin. But but that's why it's so important to have someone like us, like a public adjuster on your team, just like you would an accountant, just like you would for real estate agent. That's kind of the most. And if I can give them a tip, if you're going to try to do it yourself, say as little as possible. Not no, I'm not advocating twisting words or saying lies. Just say as little as possible. The less you say is going to work in your benefit.
Yeah. And that was, I'm glad you mentioned that one about getting paid quickly, because that's probably one of the things that harms people the most is when they're going through a claim and it's and they're not getting paid out because their insurance companies come in. There's all this back and forth. I mean, that can create a lot of hardship. So having somebody like yourself and being able to help them get paid quicker is obviously a big plus.
Correct, 100% correct. So, and you have to think, what's the what's the negative of hiring a public adjuster? What's the plus, right? There's really no negative. There's really nothing besides you pay a fee, just
Yeah,
like you pay for any
sure.
kind of service provider. You pay a fee, but the benefit outweighs weighs it so much that it's really a no brainer.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Yeah. Well, listen, Andy, it was great having you back again, dropping a load of great insights as usual, especially on an area like this where I guarantee you a lot of people don't either have heard the term public adjuster or maybe they haven't, don't really understand what it does. So I think this is a great education to bring to everybody. All of Andy's information will be below this video. But before we go, please do tell people a little bit more about you and All City.
John, yeah. Your listeners can reach me out directly. If any of the listeners wants to reach out, has questions, they can reach me out at 708-655-4186. Love giving out my number still and seeing who takes advantage of it and calls. They can Google us at allcityadjusting.com and make sure you make the smart move. And hopefully you never have a loss, but if you do, definitely keep us in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, thanks again, Andy. Thank you for watching and listening. See you all again very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, John.